Hey guys, I'm transformation specialist Rob Lopicola and sex addiction recovery coach. And if you're here, you're probably looking for a way out, a way to free yourself from the horrific grip of your sex addiction. Perhaps you've been doing some research, you're trying to figure out if you are a sex addict or what that means if you're sex addicted. You are feeling some form of hopelessness or helplessness. Perhaps your life is unmanageable, you're lost, you're confused, you're miserable, you're lying to your partner, you're having affairs, you're excessively masturbating and watching pornography, you're acting out in sexual behaviors that perhaps could even be illegal, and you try to stop, you want to stop, you make promises to yourself and other people that you'll change, but to no avail, you keep coming back to these sexual behaviors that are making you hate yourself, that are making your life, well, hopeless, where you feel there's no way out, and you're at a point now where you are exhausted, and you feel like this is who you are, and your life will always be this way. Well, I have good news for you. It doesn't always have to be the way it has always been. You can change. I am sober from sex addiction and methamphetamine addiction. I was in the chem-sex scene for quite a while. I'm sober nearly 12 years from all of those sexual behaviors, methamphetamine, and alcohol addiction. I was an alcoholic as well for decades. And I'm celebrating 12 years of sobriety this summer, and I'm grateful. And I would never refund the life I have today for that life. But when I was in that life, when I was living the life in sex addiction and methamphetamine addiction, there was almost nothing that could stop and change me from that life as much as I wanted, as many times as I went to 12-step meetings, as many times as I talked to a few friends about it. I just wasn't ready to stop my addictions and live a sober life. Why? Well, for me, I just didn't know who I would be, what kind of man I would be, what kind of enjoyment I would have in life if I lived free from sex addiction and methamphetamine and alcohol. I lived a very, very chaotic life. I thought it was very exciting, and I looked at sex as a way of self-nurturing, a way of feeling loved and wanted and needed. I felt cared for, and I felt like if someone needs me, even if it's for sex, I'm valued. And in essence, all of those behaviors sexually and the drugs and the drinking ultimately destroyed my life. I ended up homeless, bankrupt, and my sexual behavior. I had cyber sex with a high school teen who was underage. I met on Craigslist, and that cyber sex conversation put me behind bars for 5 years. And I had to hit that rock bottom. I had to hit a point of no return for me to finally surrender and wave my white flag and learn a new design for living. If any of this resonates with you, feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. I post a video every Tuesday for you, giving you strategies and techniques that I have learned, practiced, and mastered that offered me a life of sexual sobriety, and I'm here to give that to you as well. What I want to talk with you about today is what you can do to finally solve the problem of your sex addiction. Yes. Now, there's much information online. If you Google sex addiction recovery, sex addiction treatment, there's so much information out there regarding sex addiction recovery and leading a life free from sex addiction ultimately. That information is fantastic, but there is a solution for you that may not be so complex and so difficult, but you must be willing and ready to make a transformation, make a change from the way your life is now to a life where you really are a healthy, sober, thriving individual. So let's take a look at the brain. And I want you to understand some very, very basic elements of how this is working in the brain. We have several parts of the brain here: the frontal lobe, the cerebellum, and the temporal lobe. And the temporal lobe is the lobe where sex addiction, in essence, is located. Now, sex addiction is located in the hypothalamus and the amygdala, all part of the temporal lobe. The amygdala is highly active when it comes to dopamine release into the body from your addictive sexual behaviors. And the sexual desire, the sexual interest, the sexual cravings, those are located in the hypothalamus. Now, that's the short of a very complex explanation of how this is working in the brain. Now, the brain is filled with billions and billions of neurons. And you have neurons, and then between the neurons, you have neural pathways. And then in the neural pathway between two neurons, you have neurotransmitters. And these neurons basically control your behavior. Again, I'm simplistically explaining a very complex way all this works. But these neurons is what ultimately controls your behavior. Nearly 90% of your behavior is controlled by the subconscious mind. Once these neurons are created in the brain, it becomes now natural for you to act in those behaviors. In other words, it becomes a part of your habit. Riding a bicycle, for example. Once you learn how to ride a bicycle as a child, you create the neurons in the brain, and now you can ride a bicycle basically the rest of your life. You don't have to think about it anymore. Once you create the neurons in the brain, the neurons are there forever, and you'll be able to either act in that behavior naturally by way you live your life or by habits. And sex addiction and other addictions basically are habits. They're destructive habits that will ultimately destroy you. So, what you need to do is you need to create new neurons in the brain. I mean, how simple is that? Your sex addicted mind, basically within the temporal lobe, needs to be rewired. You need to rewire your brain. And you can rewire your brain by creating new neurons. That's really how this works. Now, you can go to therapy and treatment and figure out why you're sex addicted, what's going on behind your sex addiction, when did it start, why did it start, when it started, what you're feeling when it comes to your sex addiction. All that's well and good if you want to get into the psychological end of your sex addiction. But if you want to eradicate sex addiction out of your life, really what you have to do from today forward is change your neurology, change your brain, change the way your brain functions. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change over time. Your brain can actually create neurons based on new experiences in your life. In the memory part of your brain, when you, through life, as you're creating and building memories, you are not storing memories in that part of the brain. You're actually creating new neurons that are now placed in the memory part of your brain. Your experiences are creating new neurons, and those neurons are the memories. Your brain has an immense ability to change and transform. Again, that's neuroplasticity. Your brain can change by your activities and by the way you think. Now, I want you to understand that, because this is really where the solution to your sex addiction lies. The way you think and what you do. And I want you to understand that. How I think and what I do creates my brain. That's true for you. So I want you to understand. I'm going to reiterate this a third time now. What you think and what you do will change your brain. Now, if you continue doing and thinking about sexual behavior, sexual acting out, sexual fantasy, well, then your brain will continue to living that way, and your life will continue to be a life of sex addiction. You will not change if you continue thinking and doing the behaviors that are sexually destructive. So you need to stop those sexual behaviors, and you need to stop the way your brain is thinking about sexual behaviors. You can do something different by force. So you can act differently to enforce or change the neurological development of the brain. And if you think differently and act differently, both in conjunction, you will more rapidly and more successfully redesign your brain, rewire your brain, and you will live differently. You will live much more efficiently, and you will, in time, eradicate active sex addiction out of your life. And this could take as little as 30 days. Studies have shown that you can rewire your brain in as little as 30 days. Yes, there are techniques and strategies that you can begin to practice, first learn, practice, and master that'll change your life. So out of all the thousands and thousands of bits of information you'll find on Google and in your research, all you have to do is rewire your brain. And I can help you do that. I have well over 80 videos here on my YouTube channel that teach you strategies and techniques to change how you're thinking, to change how your brain functions, to understand your sex addiction, and know what you need to do to change your life. I also have a 30-day Sex Addicts Recovery and Transformation Accelerator program that'll change everything about how your brain functions in 30 days, and it will eradicate sex addiction out of your life. We're just going to rewire your brain in 30 days. You can apply for the 30-day Sex Addicts and Recovery Accelerator program on my website. I'll have the link below. Also, for you, I have a lot of free information that can help begin to change your life. I have a free ebook, which is called 5 Phases of Recovery and Transformation from Sex Addiction. Download it. It's free. It's on my website. Again, I'll have that link below. And I have a 10-step strategy session to free you from sex addiction. It's 30 minutes long. Treat it like a classroom. I'm giving it to you for free. And if you're not willing to just take free information that'll change your life, I don't know what to tell you. But I would like you to apply for that 30-day Sex Addicts and Recovery Transformation Accelerator program, because it will change your life. We're going to rewire your brain. It's as simple as that. You just need to rewire your brain. I hope that this information kind of helped you and gave you some hope. And stick around. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, because I give a video every Tuesday to help you eradicate sex addiction out of your life. Thanks for spending about 12 minutes with me today. I look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday. You take care and be well.